Hi everyone. In this video, we are diving into SQL joins, which is actually a crucial skill for business analysts, data scientists, and software engineers. We are going to solve challenging questions from Leetcode that you might encounter in a job interview. So even if you are if you are preparing for your next career move or just you wanna upskill your SQL skills, this session is gonna be for you. So let's dive right into it. We are actually gonna solve a total of 6 SQL questions, which would be related to joins in this video. So let's read our first problem. It is replace employee ID with unique identifier. So we have two tables, employees and employee uni. First table has ID, name, and second table has ID and unique ID. The one thing which we can notice over here is both the tables have ID. Then in this table, ID is the primary key, and in this table, ID is the secondary key, which is this table's primary key. Correct? So let's just write our query. First of all, let's see what do we need. Write a solution to show the unique ID of each user. We have to show the unique ID of every user. If a user does not have a unique ID, just show null. So basically, we have these two tables and we have to show unique ID of every user, right? For Alice, there's no unique ID, so we have to show null. So what we can get from this info, what we can get from this info is our main table would be employees table, and we have to show all the names from the employees table, correct? And we have to then left join the employee uni table so that we can get the unique ID of each and every users in the employees table, correct? So let's start writing. First of all, let's just see what we have to print. We can do it that later. So as we know that the main table is employees table, correct? So we can just say that from this employees E, we are gonna left join the employee uni table. We are gonna left join the employee uni table so that we get all the names from here and all the unique IDs from here. So as we know that left join will return all the all the rows from this table and the matching values from this table, and if they're not present over here, it's going to return null as our question says. So from employees E, we're going to left join the employee uni table, which we can give an alias as u, and this is the alias of employees table. And on what basis are we going to join it? So if we have to find on what basis we are going to join it, we have to find the common column in both the tables, right? The primary key of this table should be secondary key of this table, correct? This ID, correct? So on what basis are we going to join it? So on the ID of uni table, u.id should be equal to e.id, right? The ID is common, so these should be equal. And what do we have to print? Let's see, what do we have to print? We have to print u dot unique ID, right? We have to print all the unique IDs from employee uni table, and employee dot name. We have to print the names of employees from the employee table, correct? So let's just go ahead and run it. Yeah. So as we can see, we have successfully printed the unique IDs and the names. We can now move on to the next question, which is product sale analysis 1, right? Let's look at product sales analysis. So here, what do we have? Here we have a sales table, a product table. We have sale ID, product ID, year, quantity, price, product ID, and name. We can see the product ID is common in both the tables. And we have to write a solution to report the product name, year, price for each sale ID in the sales table. Returning the result table in any order. The example is given over here. We have sale ID, product ID, year, quantity, price, product ID, product name, and we have to print the product names, the years, and the prices. So for every product name, here we just have 3 rows. So for every product name, we have to print the years and the prices. The years are given in sale table, the prices are also given in sales table, and the names are given in product table. So this one's pretty easy, I guess. So we just have to we can see what do we have to print later. First, let's give alias so that we can use the alias over here. So from sales table, we have to print each name from the sales table, right? Each product ID and each price from the sales table, correct? So from sales table, which we can name S, we can just do inner join over here. Why we can do inner join over here? Because we don't have uh any item which does not have a year or a price, right? We don't have any item like that. So we can just simply do inner join and it will return the common rows, columns. So from sales table, we can for for using inner join, we can simply write join. We don't have to use the keyword inner. Even if we use it, it doesn't matter. Both the things are same. We can also just write join and we can also write inner join. We can join the product P, right? We have to join both these tables, so we can name this table P. We can give this alias as as alias P. And on what basis are we joining them? On what basis are we joining them? The product ID. As we can see, the product ID in both the tables are same. We are joining them on the basis of product ID. So on P dot product ID dot product ID should be equal to sales dot S dot product ID, as we have given the alias S to it. So S dot product ID, correct? And what do we have to print? Let's see. Product name. So product name is in product table. So P dot product name, right? And year. So year is in the sales table. So we can print S dot year. And the prices. So S dot price, correct? So we have printed the product name, year, price, and we have joined the sales table. We have inner joined them. And on what basis we have joined them? Product ID, right? Product ID. So let's go ahead and run it. So yeah, this one's also accepted. So these were our two tables. We have printed the product name, year, and price. Now I think we can move on to the next question, which is customer who visited but did not make any transactions. Okay, so let's see what we are given over here. We are given visits, we are given transactions. Visit ID is the column with the unique values for this table. Visit ID. This table contains information about customers who visited. Then we have transaction ID, visit ID, as we can see, the common thing, and the amount. Write a solution to find the IDs of the users who visited without making any transactions and return the number of times they made these type of visits. Return the result table sorted in any order. So let's look at the example ones. So we have visit ID, customer ID, transaction ID, visit ID, and amount. And what do we have to return is we have to return the customers who have visited, who have a visit ID, but they did not make any transactions, and how many times they've done that, right? So uh, what we can do over here is we have two table visits and transactions. So let's just go ahead and write select, as we can, as we are going to make alias down here, so we're not printing anything right now. So what we can do over here is, let's think about it. So from visits table, what we can do is we can print all the IDs, print, the customer IDs from the all the customer IDs from the visits table who have not made any transactions. So from the we can take all the values of customer ID from the visits table and then left join them into the transactions table. And obviously, we know on what basis we are going to join them. We're going to join them on the basis of visit ID. First, let's do that. Then we'll move on to the next step. So first of all, from visits, we're going to left join. Okay. We're going to left join as we need all the customers who have not made any transaction. That's why we are using the left join, right? So we are gonna left join transactions transactions on what basis? On a visit ID basis. So we can name visits fee, or if we do not want to give any areas, we can just keep it like that. Let's keep it like that in this example, so that we know that we can also use it like this: visits dot visit id, visits dot visit id, and transactions dot visit id. These are the joining point: transactions dot visit id. Correct. Now let's see what and all will get printed. Let's just see what and all is going to get printed from this example. What we have done is we have taken the customer ID, we have taken the visit ID, we have taken the visit ID here, we have joined these tables, and we have printed everything right now. So what has happened right now? All the visit ID, all the customer ID has been printed, and all the amounts have been printed, and the amounts which are null, right? The amounts which are null, transaction ID is null, those have also been printed. What do we mean by transaction ID null? Here, if the transaction ID is null, then they did not make any transaction, right? They did not make any transaction. For example, this is customer ID number 30. They have not made any transaction. It is null. 96 null. 54, we can see there two times and they have not made any transaction. That is what we have to print. We have to print 54 have made 54. The customer with customer ID number 54 visited two times and did not make any transaction, right? So what we are gonna do is, as we can see, where the transaction IDs are null, we have to print that, right? So where transaction id id is null, we are gonna print those. Let's see what happens from here. Correct. So what happens? The customers with transaction ID null has been printed. Correct. But we do not need this. We still do not need this. We need the count of, count of transaction, count of null transactions they've made. Like they've visited, but they have not made any transaction. We need a count of that. So what we can do is we can group the people. We can group the people by visit ID. Correct. Sorry, we can group the people by customer ID. Correct. As we can see that there are customers, and we can just print the number of transactions. We can print the count of this. So we're going to group them by visits dot customer ID, right? Visits dot customer ID. We're going to group by that. And what do we have to print? Let's see, what do we have to print? Our desired output is the grouped customer ID. So visits dot customer ID. Obviously, we have to print the customer's ID. Visits dot customer ID. Then the count of null transactions. The count of null transactions. Count of customer ID. Correct. The count of customer ID over here we have to print. For example, 30. For 30, we should get 1. For 96, we should also get 1. But 54 is being repeated. So for 54, we should get 2. Correct. Let's go ahead and run this. So there's still an error. As we can see, the difference over here is in the name. We have not given this thing any area. So that's why this error is coming. So we can just go ahead and give the alias that they want, which is count no trans, right? And let's go ahead and run it. Yeah, so as we can see, we have printed the customer IDs and the null transactions they've done. Correct. So I think that's pretty much it for this question. Let's move on to the next question, which would be employee bonus. So let's just read out this question. So we have an employee table and a bonus table. Employee ID is the column with unique values for this table. Employee ID, we have employee ID. Each row of this table indicates the name and the ID of an employee in addition to their salary and the ID of their manager, right? And employee ID, and we have bonus. What do we have to return? Write a solution to report the name and bonus amount of each employee with a bonus less than 1,000. Okay, we just have to report the name and bonus of each employee with the bonus would be less than 1,000, right? All right, so let's look at the next question, which is rising temperature. What we are given over here is we have given just one table, weather, where ID is the column with unique values. This table contains information about the temperature on a certain day. We have record date, we have temperature. Write a solution to find all the dates ID with higher temperature compared to its previous dates. So we have to record all the dates which will have higher temperature compared to the previous dates and return the result table in any order. So, if we think about it, what we can do over here is we do not have two tables. We can see we don't have two tables, but we have to compare the values, correct? We don't have two tables, but we have to compare the values. What we can do is we can divide this table into two tables. So how are we going to divide this table into two tables? By using self join, right? By using self join, what would happen is we can make two tables named as weather 1 and named as weather 2, and then we can compare the values from weather 1 and weather 2 in order to generate the output, correct? Let's see. Okay, let's see. We'll see what we have to print later. Then we what are we gonna do? We are gonna divide this table only in two tables. So we can just do weather, right? From this table only, we can give it alias weather 1, right? We have our first table weather 1. Then what we are gonna do is we are gonna self join. For self join, we can also write inner join, right? We have divided this table into two tables by giving it two different aliases. What we are doing here is self join, but we can write the keyword join, and we are gonna take the next table as weather w2, right? So this just this table has been divided into two different tables, weather 1 and weather 2, and we have joined these tables with each other, right? On what basis? On what basis are we going to join it? We're not going to join it on the basis of ID. We're not going to return the same table twice, right? On what basis are we going to join it? What we can do is, okay, so first of all, if we have to get the difference of dates, the difference of dates, if we in SQL, if you have to get a difference of dates, there's a function named date diff, right? As we can see, it turned into yellow. That means there's a function already defined which is named as date dated diff, date diff, right? So what we can do is we can join the tables on this basis. We can join the tables on date date diff, where the now we have to get the difference of two dates, right? We have to get the difference of two dates. What we are going to pass over here is we are going to pass here two dates, right? And then this function will give us the difference of two dates. So we'll go ahead and pass two dates over here. W2 dot record date. We have passed this column record date, and from the from the same table we have passed record date. So we are going to get the difference of W2 dot record date and W1 dot record date, right? So from our second table and first table, W2's record date minus W1's record date. What should be the difference? What should be the difference? The difference should be 1, as we just have to get the higher temperature than the previous date, right? We just have to get the higher temperature from previous date. So we are going to do the difference 1. Then we can get high temperature from previous date. right? So let's just go ahead and print everything and see what gets printed over here. Let's just see what gets printed over here. So what we have over here is we have IDs, we have record dates, we have record dates. Let's see in this example, we have 1/1/2015, we have 1/1/2015. Then we have 2/1/2015. From what we have to compare, we have to compare 10 and 25, right? So for in order to compare 10 and 25, we need to have two tables. In order to compare 10 and 25, we need to have two tables joined, right? Then we can compare this temperature with this temperature. And on what basis we have joined it? So on what basis we have joined it? We have joined on the temperature basis. We have to compare these two temperatures. We have just go ahead and printed the whole table, whole like two different tables. We have ID recorded temperature. This is our W1. We have ID recorded temperature. This is our W2. And then we are going to compare the temperature from both these tables. So where the date difference is 1, we have printed everything. But what do we need over here is, first of all, let's see what condition is given. We need to calculate the higher temperature compared to its previous date, right? So we are just gonna go ahead and calculate if the temperature was higher than previous date. This is our next date, this is our previous date, correct? So we're gonna just compare W2 dot temperature, W2 dot temperature, correct? The temperature from this table should be higher than the temperature from this table. So should be higher than the temperature in previous table, right? W1 dot temperature. W2 dot temperature should be higher than W1 dot temperature. Let's just go ahead and print everything right now. We just need the IDs, but let's just go ahead and print everything. So we have higher temperature. 25 is higher than 10, 30 is higher than 20. What do we need to print now? We need to print the IDs which has higher temperature. So what will we print? This is our W2, right? So we are gonna print W2 dot ID, correct? And let's just go ahead and run this query. As we can see, the IDs which have temperature higher than the previous dates got printed, right? All right. So, uh, yeah. So let's move on to our next question, which would be average time of process per machine. Let's see what we are given over here is, we are given activity, we are given column name, type, machine ID, process ID, activity type, timestamp, correct? And we have given a scheme, like a question, a problem, prompt. Let's read that out. So there is a factory website that has several machines, each running the same number of processes. Write a solution to find the average time each machine takes. So we have machine ID, we have process ID. Let's just look at the example right over here. So we have machine ID, we have process ID, activity type, and timestamps, right? So we have to write a solution to find the average time each machine takes to complete a process, the time to complete a process in the end timestamp minus the start timestamp, right? So we have these machine IDs, process IDs, and the time would be the average time would be the end timestamp minus the start timestamp. The average time is calculated by the total time to complete every process on the machine divided the number of processes that we run. So to complete every processes and the number of processes that we ran in the table would be our processing time, the average time. The resulting table should have machine ID and the processing time for each process, right? As processing time, which should be rounded to 3 decimal places. So in order to round to 3 decimal places, we can simply, use the round function. But let's go ahead and see how are we gonna approach this question. First of all, let's not bother about what we are going to print. Let's look at that later because we are going to give aliases to particular columns. So from we just have one table, you can say over here we just have one table and we have to compare processes within the same table. So if we have a prompt like this, as we did in the previous question, what we do is we do self join. We join this table itself with this table itself on basis of some on basis of some condition which will satisfy the output we have to generate. So uh so basically what we are going to do is we are going to simply join this table with this table itself. We're going to simply, as we don't have two tables, but we have to compare the values within the same table. So within this, in order to compare values within the same table, we need to have two tables among which we can compare values, right? So we're just going to go ahead and join, like from activity, we're going to name it A1. We're going to just join activity, same table, A2. So what we have done on over here is we have joined the same table with the same table, right? But we need to have some basis in order to join these. We need to have some basis. What will we have common over here is machine ID, right? We have to print the machine ID so we can join on the, we have to group the machine IDs so we can join on the basis of machine IDs. So on what basis? A1 dot machine ID, right? On A1 dot machine ID should be equal to A2 dot machine ID. The machine ID should be equal, right? But just this basis won't be enough. Just joining the whole table with the whole table itself won't be enough. We need to have some other metric on which we are going to join it. As we saw in the question, what we have to do is we have to, you know, uh, we need to have a difference of end timestamp and the start timestamp. Correct? We need to have a difference of the end timestamp and the start timestamp, right? So in order to have that, what we can do is in one particular table, like in A1, we can just have the start timestamps, and in the A2, we can just have the end timestamps, right? So we need to have some other basis on which we are going to join it. So in one table, in one table, A1 dot activity type should be start. let's let's do this, that in one table we just need to have start timestamps. The activity type should be start, right? And in the second table we can have the end. Activity type can be the end, right? And other than that, we need to have the same process IDs. Here what we'll do is, for this start cannot be matched with this end. We need to have the same process ID for the end and the start, right? So the process ID should be same. And the process ID of A1 should be equal to the process ID of A2, correct? Let's just go ahead and print everything right now and see what we have created from this join. So we have machine IDs, we have process IDs, and we have activity type timestamps. The activity type would be start. Then we have the same table, which is A2, machine IDs, process IDs, activity types, which is end, and the timestamps. Now what we have to compare? We have to compare these timestamps with these timestamps for a particular process, for a particular process ID. But what do we have to return over here? We have to return the machine IDs grouped, right? We don't have to return 00, 11, 22. We have to group them and return them in order to calculate the average. So let's just, group the machine IDs, right? We have just grouped the machine IDs, and now we are gonna, print the difference, like just print the average of the activities. So in order to print the average, we don't have to print everything, right? We just have to print the averages. So in order to print averages, first of all, what we have to print? We have to print the machine IDs. Let's just go ahead and print the machine IDs, which we have grouped. We have grouped the machine IDs over here. We can just go ahead and print them. And we have to print the average of A2 dot timestamp minus A1 dot timestamp. Right? We have to subtract these timestamps with these timestamps, right? Let's just go ahead and run it. So a2 dot timestamp in field list. Uh, okay. Okay. So what we have done is there is no underscore in timestamp. We just written an underscore. Let's just go ahead and print this. So, but we are getting over here. We have the group machine IDs, we have the average, but we don't have to. What we have to do is we have to print this as processing time. And what was written in the question? We have to round it to 3 decimal places. We don't have to print these many decimal places. We have to round them to 3 decimal places. Let's just go ahead and round the function. So it will have two parameters. First, what do we have to round? We have to round out the average. Then how many decimal places? 3 decimal places as it is specified in the question. And what do we have to keep the alias of this column? Processing time, right? So we can just do this as processing time. So yeah, we have got a desired output. And this is pretty much it for this video. In next video, we can practice the SQL subqueries. Thank you so much. See you in the next video. Bye bye.